Well, hello to everybody. Today I thought I'd do a video exclusively about heating, and as you know, for snakes that is really important. You know, snakes are cold-blooded, they cannot thermoregulate, so they need to be able to have heat to warm themselves up. And the heat is necessary for them to move, to eat, to digest. Without it, you know, they eat something, they can't digest it, it sits in their body, it rots. Big trouble, just big trouble. So it is really important to have heating and proper temps for your guys. So there are various forms of heating that you can use. Now, you know, I would advise you to read up on specifically what your species is like. Now, for me, from what information and knowledge I actually have, I can hear my cat meowing in the background here, is some like to bask, some like to belly heat. I can say to you that my jungles love to bask. They're not belly heat guys, whereas Jack is more inclined to be of the belly heat. Even though I do not have, say, a heat mat in his enclosure, and I use a heat panel, which I'll go into a little bit more about that and why I use the heat panels. So really read up about your species as well, because I do think the way you heat should be related more to the species rather than the overall. So I will start with the heat mats at this particular point. So heat mats, which you place underneath your enclosure. Now if your enclosure is wooden, you just can't do it. Lots of people will cut out a piece and put the heat mat up underneath and then put or fix a plastic or a glass cover and seal it, because you cannot have your snake go and lay directly on it. And besides that, if they pee in there and the electricals, it's just dangerous. Just don't do it, basically. But if you have a glass enclosure like I do for Jessie, it's quite easy to actually put it up underneath that glass. But also remember to have that lifted, so there's a bit of air flowing through at the same time. So I do have a heat mat on the bottom for Jessie at the moment. He doesn't really use it. I think I've seen him in his hide on the heat mat once. So he tends to go up onto his log or his branch and bask. As I said, my jungles bask, so I accommodate that. But a heat mat, and they come in various sizes, but this is basically what it is. And this is actually, I believe, a 7 watt. So they go up to 12 watt and so on, depending on the size of your enclosure as well. So you don't want to cover more, I would say, than less than a quarter even, or maybe a quarter of your actual tank, because you've got to have a warm and a cool. So, you know, if you've got this heat mat that covers half, that warmth is going to go over to the cool side as well. So size it, make it about 1/4 of your tank. Now if you're using a heat mat, which like I said I have in Jessie's, though it's bigger than this particular one, you are also going to be needing, and this I would pertain to heat mats because this is the only thermostat that I use with my heat mats, and basically it is one of these. Now this is a digital one which actually shows me the temperature and what I have it set on, and you set it on around 30, which is what snakes like, is the 30 with the belly heat. You don't need to have it any higher than that, guys. So unless it's species, always remember when I'm talking to you it's about your species. Now 30 is for mine. Whatever yours is, research, find out what is appropriate for them. It has a sensor on it, which is what you place inside your tank on top of your substrate to get what heat it is where they lay. That's important to have. Now this thermostat controller clicks on and clicks off, which is what you use for your, I guess you could use a dimming, a proportional thermostat for your heat mats, but why? You don't really need to. And these aren't really that expensive, so if you go onto eBay, you can pick them up from $20 to $25, whereas you go the dimming proportional, you're going to pay a whole lot more. And I believe, you know, for the proportional dimming, it's more vital for your lamps, your panels and so on. So that's your heat mats. Of course there are heat cords, same deal. You always need a thermostat controller. So your heat cords, you know, lots of people run them on the inside between 2 layers and wrap them around and heat, you know, a shelf or the side of the wall or whatever. I personally, I don't use them, but they are out there and you can use them. You know, if you put them between 2 tiles, which can be where they lay to belly warm themselves on as well. Then you've got your flexi tape, heat tape, which is more kind of used in your rack and tub systems. It's probably the best way to heat your tubs is with flexi heat tape, and I don't have any on me at all, and I don't have a heat cord to show you, but you can also look that up on the internet and you'll see them. So now we'll move on to heat lamps, which I use for Jessie. Now there are different ones and different wattage, of course, but you have your basking lights, which are great for your basking snakes, absolutely. But remember, if you're using it as your sole form of heat, you can't have this on at night, so it's daylight to your snake, so it is not practical to use if it's your heat source. So, but a lot of people use them for their beardies and so on, and they do use them for their snakes. You just need to turn it off at night for your guys. Then you also have, which can be used at night and day, is your blue lights. Now these are a heat, but they're also brilliant for night light. So you know, if it's going to be used as your sole form of heating, you want to be able to see your snake, which at night, which this one won't do because you've got to turn it off. Then a blue light is the way to go, guys. They come in various wattages as well, so that's your blue lights. Now I use currently for Jessie the red, the infrared, which does not affect them at night, they say. You know, maybe to some degree, I don't know, but anyway, they say it doesn't, so I use this because it is really Jessie's sole form of heating, especially if I haven't got that heat mat going. But all of them also need to be connected to a thermostat to control it. You just can't have it going full bore all the time. So when I talk about a dimming proportional thermostat, I will attempt to lift Jessie's up and zoom in to it. If it will reach this far, I will turn it around and I will zoom for you. Bear with me. But that is, straighten it, what I have on Jessie's Enclosure. It has a sensor, so I would say to you to put it halfway, because then you'll get an idea of the fact that down the bottom is going to be cooler. That midsection, say you've got it set for 31, 32, which is what my guys like. Around the midway point you've got around 30, which is brilliant for them. And then when they go up onto their branch, they've got the 31, 32. Please check it. Always check your temps. This is why it is a good idea to have some sort of a setup where you have a sensor that can sit on that high temp area, especially the high temp area. Not so concerned about midway and bottom. That where they're going to bask, please make sure you have a sensor in that particular area that you can read. You don't want it too hot. So you can have fancy ones like this that does humidity as well as what temperature your heat is at, or you can just have a little guy like this, which just basically shows you what the temperature is. And you may use a couple. You may like to know what the cool bit is and what the hot part of your tank is. So that's just a couple of things. And of course this is a proportional, and really what that is it's a dimming as well. And I like to use them for the practicality that they don't switch your heat lamps on and off. They just slowly dim it down and then slowly bring it back up again. It will save you money on your electricity, and it will also definitely save you on heat lamps, guys. It really will. So I think they're fantastic. Of course that one, you know, you just alter the temps by using a little screwdriver and turning it up and down. And please remember, just because you have it looking like it's sitting on 31, check the temperature, because it may not be that at all, and they can be a little bit dicky for that sort of thing. Hence why on Jack's, for example, I have something similar to this that I can set, which is digital, and I just press a button and I can see. Also with Jack's, I can set a daytime temp and a nighttime temp. It also has the ability to turn and do the 12-hour cycle with the daylight as well. And I actually got that off eBay for under $60. whereas your microclimates, you know, can be actually triple the price. And what I'm trying to do, guys, is right here, I should have had this out, but I just use one of these, and it's a thermal temperature taker. Basically it has a laser, and basically I just point it, not through the glass, it won't detect the right temp, but I point it where I want to know what the temperatures are, and it's dead on and precise. So also for under $20 you can get yourself a digital laser temperature reader. So that can actually save having all these cords and everything running through your tank. Now I do have them in mind because I was going to do some videos, and I really wanted to have a variety of stuff that, you know, I think when you're starting out with your first snake, you worry, is this right, is this not right? So to have a quick look, glance it, go, okay, everything's good in there, it's probably the best way to go. But after you've had snakes for many years, you'll find, oh, I don't really need that. I know the go just by watching my snakes. Where, what, is it too hot? They're spending more time in the hot side. They're spending too much time in the cool side. You know, you start to figure out their behaviour, and, you know, my temps are too high or too low, and you can adjust them for them. Now, using heat lamps, you know, you will need one of these because they get pretty hot, but also this will disperse the heat quite nicely as well. So you can buy lamp holders, which I have on Jessie's, or you can just sit them on your mesh. I tend to put a couple of little supports to lift them up off the mesh because I feel that gets really hot. So yeah, one of these. Of course, if you've got a wooden enclosure and no mesh top, then you are going, and I don't have one, you do buy mesh guards for your lamps if you're putting them inside your enclosure, because your snake can and will wrap themselves around that lamp, and then you've got burns to deal with. The same as heat rocks. Don't buy them. If they fail, they run at full temp. They fail at full temp, and if your guy's laying on it, by the time they go, this is too hot, then the damage is already done. So, you know, I hope I've given you some information on what sort of heating there is out there for heating your snake's enclosure. Of course, if you know of any other things that you do that would help viewers, and especially first time purchasers, you know, it's all very daunting. You know, temperatures, humidity, substrate, heating, which way do I go? There is so many different things out there. And I haven't mentioned my heat panels, which if you've looked in my enclosure setup video, I will put a link to it in this video. You will see I use heat panels, and I love them. I think they are the best thing, and basically they are compact. They sit up onto the roof. The heat is directed down, and it disperses that heat beautifully. Also, they can't burn themselves on it. There's no ability for them to grip or hang on to or do anything with it. So, but it's guaranteed, even if they did, they would not get burnt by it. They are connected to my dimming thermostats, which I do believe save you a lot of money, but so do your heat panels. They are so much more efficient, and basically not only do they disperse the heat, but whatever is directly under them will heat up as well. So they do get some belly warmth from the top of whatever that heat panel is hitting. Now I must say, with the heat panels, setting up your thermostat to detect the heating, it must be under where the heat source is coming from, not up against the side of the wall, guys. It doesn't really heat that particular area, or then past that particular area, so to speak. And you're looking at the highest temp here. So I have mine almost a third of the way down, and it does sort of poke out where it's getting that direct heat from the heat panel. It's a little bit tricky to set it up, but it's worth it, totally worth it. So if you're looking at something a little bit different to your lamps, your mats and so forth, I would say look into your heat panels. They come in various wattages. That might be initially you think, oh, they're a little bit expensive for me, but in the end they're not. And a lot of them have a 10-year warranty. So you just can't go wrong with them. So my suggestion is heat panels. I think they're going to be what a lot of people actually start heating up their enclosures with. So if there's anything I've missed, please let me know. And guys, I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. So like and subscribe and share. Bye for now.